Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about work. Remember, we're working on these universal moral principles. We want to see, is there a moral law connected to work? Remember, ONLAC, origin, nature, law, application, consequence. The origin of this moral law, think about this, is to bring into being and sustain in being requires work. Someone worked to raise you. Is that true? Of all people, babies can't raise themselves. Someone had to raise us, and now that we're adults, we have to keep ourselves going. So work. What is work? Let's back up for a moment. What is work? It's the expenditure of energy, right? So everyone has to work. It's a universal. And you might think, no, people like celebrities don't have to work, or rich people, billionaires don't have to work. Do they have to chew their own food? Yeah. Do they have to put on their pants in the morning? Yeah. So work is the expenditure of energy. It's a universal. All human beings have to work. So to bring into being new people requires work, and to sustain yourself in being requires work. So once you're in being, you got to keep yourself going, or someone else has to keep you going. Some people's jobs, notice I use a different word now, jobs, is to keep other people alive. So work is not the same as your job. Sorry, that's Kino in the background if you hear him. He's in here. He's a working dog. He likes to help me make videos. All right, so work is the expenditure of energy, and it's not the same thing as your job. So sometimes our job is not necessarily connected with our work or our vocation or our calling. But everyone has to work. And look at the nature. We've already gone over some of this. The nature. Work is necessary and universal. If we didn't work, we would die. I'm just going to give you another example. If we didn't work, nature would overtake us. Right now, I live out in the desert, and it was a rainy-ish winter, and the weeds are overtaking us. And if we don't work to keep those weeds back at bay, I think the weeds would overtake us. We would lose this house. It would just like the desert would overtake us if we didn't work to keep the house up, right? So work is necessary and universal. Everyone has to work. But I'm open to disagreement, so please don't hesitate to send me a line where you're like, no, I don't believe everyone has to work. Here's an example of someone who doesn't have to work. All right, maybe if you're on a ventilator machine, but guess what? The machine is working for you. So work still is keeping you alive. Work is not an end in itself. It's not the good, but it is a means to the good. So work is a virtue. It's not the goal, but we work to achieve the goal. Now, this is just a reminder of the good, the 10 characteristics of the good. We've gone over this, but let's remind ourselves. The good is continuing. You could take it with you. It's inexhaustible. You'll never run out of the good. It's practically infinite for us. The good is comprehensive. It covers everything. It's inalienable. It can't be taken from you. It is corporate. It's going to require all of humanity to accomplish the good. It's cumulative. It grows exponentially. It's communal. You can share it, and it increases by sharing. It's fulfilling. It's the most fulfilling thing, and it is transformative. It's connected to what is ultimate. I skipped that one. What is infinite, eternal, and it's transformative. It has the power to change our lives. Knowledge is power. Remember that? We talked about knowledge is the good. Not just knowledge, though. The good is the knowledge of the nature of things. So knowing the nature of reality. And not just things. The nature of things reveals the nature of ultimate reality. So this is, again, getting us back to metaphysics. Therefore, the good is the knowledge of ultimate reality. If we know what is real, then we'll know what is human nature. And if we know what is human nature, we'll know what is good for human beings. And maybe those two are so connected that knowing ultimate reality is fulfilling to human nature, the most fulfilling thing. Now, how do we get knowledge? I if we've talked about this yet. How do we attain knowledge? You're going to school right now. You're taking this class right now. How are you attaining knowledge? It's through dominion. That's a new word. Now, dominion is not domination. Sometimes those words get confused. Dominion has its own nature, and dominion is the development by yourself and others, developing the powers that are latent in yourself and in the world. So right now, we're going through this crisis. A lot of people are having to have dominion. Like, oh, we have this virus. What's its nature and how can we conquer it? Now, that is not domination. Dominion is understanding the nature of the thing and understanding how to develop it or overcome it. In this case, a virus, you want to overcome the virus because the virus will overcome you if you don't. But how about this? I just upgraded to the iPhone 11. I'm using it right now to make this video. I'm trying to have dominion in the area of video making. I'm learning about the nature of lighting, the nature of, I don't know, ISO and camera shutter speed. I have to understand the nature of making videos in order to excel, right? I'm not there yet. And I also, we're also developing our own powers. So I'm trying to develop the power of communication, not just communication, but communication of ethics to you. So you are developing your powers and going to school. That's part of education, right? Like, what's in me that I could develop and bring out and become better? Maybe it's your talent. I guess that's where I'm going with this. I didn't want to bring up talent yet because it's coming up in a couple moral laws, but your talent is your particular skill set, abilities to contribute to the good for maybe your act of dominion in this world. Dominion is like ruling. It's I used to tell my students when I taught high school, have dominion over your domain, meaning rule over your area of life. You've got this little locker, this desk space. It's a mess right now. Rule over it. Bring it back to order. Okay, knowledge is through dominion. We have to interact with the world, with reality, with ourselves, with other people. So knowledge is through dominion, and in doing this work of dominion, we can shine, we can excel, and we are drawn to excellence. Think about sports. All the sports are canceled right now, right? But think of sports. Think of music and wonderful musicians. Think of artists. Think of playwrights or people who excel in the arts. What do we do when we see excellence? We tend to praise excellence, right? We're like, yeah, that rocks. When we see our team winning, we cheer because that's our response to excellence. That's our response to dominion. So dominion is developing your powers, and when we see dominion, we go, yeah, that. When I saw this iPhone 11, I was like, yeah, that thing rocks. I love the iPhone. I have an iPhone 8, but when I saw the 11 and what the camera can do, I was like, yes, some people have understood what this little pocket computer can do, and they've given me like a movie camera in my pocket. That's amazing. Not just that, but I do everything with this phone. Everything. And I think the little iPhone is a symbol to me of dominion. Because not only is it itself kind of a unique, beautiful piece of work, but it has captured all of our work so that I have it at my fingertips, right? I can learn anything from my phone. So I think the smartphone is a symbol of our achievement, our dominion. Now notice this next part. All lives reveal human nature. Why? Because we're humans. Some lives reveal human nature by natural rule. So some people their rule over certain aspects of the world reveals to us something about them and something about the world. When I was in school doing my PhD, I took a class, what was it called? Something like the history and philosophy of science and math. I think that's what it was. The history and philosophy of science and math. And I had to read this book about the periodic table of elements. And I read about Madame Curie and her discovery of this element. She spent her life pursuing the nature of an element and naming it polonium. So her life, she died too of radiation poisoning because we didn't understand the nature of it yet, and she was being exposed to radiation. But her life was this passionate pursuit of understanding this element and naming the element and it becoming part of the periodic table. Think of how many people have contributed to what I'm calling the human project in this way. So some lives reveal it by natural rule. Hers is an example of natural rule. So are athletes and artists and people who achieve excellence. I guess everybody is going to reveal something about this. Some lives reveal human nature by natural rule. Some lives reveal human nature by moral rule. So moral excellence, a life that is lived in moral excellence. I think it's harder to find examples of these today because our culture doesn't celebrate people with moral rule. We tend to celebrate natural rule. I don't know, do we have people on TV shows that are like, look at this person, how morally excellent they are. I don't think we value them as much as like celebrities who have achieved things in Hollywood or through sports or music or the arts. And not all arts either, like the popular arts, right? But some lives do reveal human nature by moral rule, and we should look for those people. These are like our moral heroes. So we have people who rule naturally. Those are usually heroes, right? But who are the moral heroes? I'm sure they're there. They just don't get celebrated very often. You should find someone who knows the good. Maybe they become your mentor. Maybe they become your teacher. And in that way, you can observe moral rule in another person and be thankful for that person. Because moral rule is harder than natural rule, if you ask me. It's hard to seek the good in a world that doesn't care about the good. Okay, and with that said, let's look at the next point. Point 4, work for the good requires hope. All right, why? Hope is that, look, this work that I'm doing is going to contribute to the good, and the good is going to be achieved one day. Think about this. If all you did was work and 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 die, where's the hope in that? Have you read about the myth of Sisyphus? You should look this up. Camus, he did this too. The myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was punished by the gods. I forgot what exactly he did. You can Google it and read about Sisyphus. He was punished by the gods to push a rock up a hill every day, and at the end of the day, the rock would roll down again, and next day he had to push the rock up. At the end of the day, it would roll down. So this is like an illustration of the meaninglessness of work if there's no goal, there's no purpose. So if there is a purpose, and there is a purpose, remember the good is the purpose, work for the good requires hope. Because sometimes it feels like we're doing that, pushing that rock up the hill, but we're not. Hope is based on understanding the nature of things. So in order to actually have hope, we need to understand the nature of things, and what things in particular. From the nature of things, it is certain that the good will be attained. So the good, meaning the all the powers latent in the created order and in ourselves will be developed. Not totally, not completely, but sufficiently so that we understand the nature of things. Like probably there aren't going to be many more elements added to the periodic table of elements. Probably there aren't going to be very many more musical genres or artistic genres discovered. So we will discover what's there, name it, and what's left then is to enjoy it, right? Enjoy all the things that we've discovered. Hope is based on understanding the nature of things. From the nature of things, it is certain that the good will be attained. Consider the nature of humans. Human nature is such that we need meaning, and we find meaning through knowing, and we know through dominion. So we have to do it. This is how we understand things. Human beings need meaning, and the good is knowledge. So from the nature of the good is knowledge. Now, I'm not sure you're persuaded that there is a God, but if there is a God and God is good, then God would guarantee that the good is achieved. That's would be the point of creating. Why create? So that humans could know God, and humans could know God through knowing all that God has made. But perhaps you're not persuaded that there's a God. From the past, there has been progress. I mean, I'm looking into the iPhone thinking, this is progress. You know what this is progress over? When we didn't have any iPhones. When I had to carry my pager and my camera and my Walkman in my purse, right? And my calculator. So we have had progress. Not only that, we've had progress in so many ways. And it may be you're going, well, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced of that. Okay, how about we've had progress in natural rule, but perhaps we haven't had as much progress in moral rule. And maybe our natural rule gets ahead of us. Like, hey, I don't know where the virus came from. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if it came from a bat or it came from humans tinkering with bats. But it's out there now. And it's something that looks like it's a challenge to human natural rule. I think humans will rise to the occasion and develop something to overcome the virus, but it's also a challenge to our moral rule. So it says, consider the present. In the present, natural evil is upon us. We are suffering, and natural evil is a callback from moral evil. So if we are being called back, that's hopeful too. That means we haven't been left abandoned in this world of moral evil. We're being called back. We're being called back by suffering. So the nature of humans, the nature of the good, God, the past, and the present should give us hope that the good will be achieved. All right, the law for this one. We should work for the good with true hope. Don't you want people to work for the good with true hope? I do. We should make this a moral law. But you're free to disagree with me. All right, so let's look at some applications. True hope is opposed to no hope. No hope says the good cannot be achieved by the work of dominion. I don't know. The good cannot be achieved by the work of dominion, then the good can't be achieved at all, right? That's no hope. Work without hope for the good is meaningless. It's pushing the rock up. It's Sisyphus and the rock up the hill. Work for pleasure as the good is empty. Some people are doing that. They're out there just working to make money, to get comfort. I think what we're going through right now is shaking that up a lot. A lot of people have been working for pleasure and now they don't have it. And now they're losing money and now they're stuck at home. And natural evil is calling our view of the good into question. And that's good. That's hopeful. Okay, point 7. True hope is opposed to false hope, that we can achieve the good without the work of dominion. Some people think you can just die and go to heaven and get the blessing there. That's false hope. True hope is opposed to revolutionary utopianism, that somehow we can just have utopia here on earth. This is like Marxism, communism. We could just have a revolution, overthrow the capitalist system, establish communism, and, we'll have a utopia here on earth. That's not going to happen, and that's not true hope either, because it's going about it without the work of dominion. True hope is opposed to the hope of righteousness by works. Okay, this is the idea that humans can save themselves. Like if I just do, it's deontology. If I just do this, do this, do this, do this, then I'm good. Lots of people think that they can just like buy a ticket to heaven by doing what God wants them to do. That's not true hope either. And humans can't buy their way anywhere. You can't buy your way to heaven. It's not going to happen. Go back to moral law 2 about vicarious atonement in that question. True hope is opposed to millennial supernaturalism. This is the idea that somehow, God or Jesus is just going to come back and save us all. This is like the Rapture or the Left Behind series. I've heard this predicted so many times in my young life that it's become a joke to me that, this is the end times and we're in the end times right now, right? And Jesus is just going to come back and save us all. That's apart from the work of dominion. I don't think that's going to happen. True hope is opposed to cyclical fatalism, that we're doomed to the iron prison of time. History repeats itself. This is just another cycle of history repeating itself, and it always repeats itself. No, that's not true. There's been progress. Go back in time. Take a time travel back and see if there has been progress. It's not just another cycle. True hope is opposed to the hope of mystical ecstasy. This is the idea that some people have that the good is achieved by some special mystical experience, either in this life or in the future life. That's getting some kind of high, and it's apart from work. And it divorces our work in this life from any kind of enjoyment, either in the next life or now. It seems like work gives us knowledge. Knowledge gives us enjoyment, happiness. It could be now and in the future. All right, the consequences of this moral law. Work apart from the good is empty. And we can't stand what's empty, meaningless. Work for the good is fulfilling and ultimately fulfilling, meaningful. So I would like to end this moral law with the question, should we work for the good with true hope? Do you want to make that a universal? Or do you want to just work without any hope at all, or false hope, or I don't know. I guess that's it. True hope or false hope. I don't think we can get around work, though. So we have to work. Do you want to work with hope or without hope? All right, next time we're going to talk about authority. Ooh, who or what is your authority? All right, have a great day.